Thursday, January 21st, 2021, and you're listening to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media, in partnership with the Acadiana Advocate. Their team of journalists print the stories important to our community and state, and we are happy to read you some of those stories. You can hear Local News Live Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on AOC 1, the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube, and on Cypress Street Radio at aocinc.org/CS Radio. You can find print versions of these stories and more at theadvocate.com. We couldn't bring you this community service without the generosity of our volunteer news readers. Today, we're joined by Daniel Rayburn. Welcome to Local News Live, Daniel. Thanks for joining us.
And thank you for having me.
All right. Well, we got a lot of news, so I'm going to go listen on Cypress Street. Thanks again.
Good morning, Acadiana. As we said, there are quite a few stories to get to today, so I think we're going to jump right in. We're going to look at our first local headline, and it reads, Panel formed to study deconsolidation. Lafayette Council seeks more control over city tax dollars. And this is brought to us by Claire Taylor. The Lafayette City Council, which butted heads in 2020 with the mayor-president, city parish attorney, and parish council over control of city tax dollars, agreed Tuesday to appoint a committee to look at the benefits and drawbacks of the city's participation in consolidated government. Deconsolidation of the city and parish governments is among the options available for the committee to consider, although withdrawing from Lafayette consolidated government would require approval of a home rule charter amendment by city and parish voters, provided the city and parish councils first agreed to bring the matter to voters. City Council member Pat Lewis, who proposed the committee, said he would like to have a proposed charter amendment on the fall 2022 ballot. The council voted unanimously Tuesday to create the Protect the City Committee, including council member Andy Nakwan, who, while representing a city parish council district entirely in the city, voted in 2013 against appointing a charter commission to give voters the option of amending the home rule charter so Lafayette residents would have more autonomy over city matters and finances. Former parish mayor-president Joey Durrell proposed the charter commission after voters rejected a 2011 charter commission proposal to deconsolidate. In 2018, voters approved a charter amendment that, among other things, split the city parish council into separate city and parish councils for the first time since 1996. Lafayette, the largest municipality in the parish, is the only one that lost its mayor and city council with consolidation. The new councils were seated in January 2020. It quickly became apparent that giving Lafayette its own council did not give the city autonomy over city tax dollars, stirring demands from residents for a separate mayor for Lafayette. Everyone in Lafayette Parish votes on the mayor-president, whose attention and loyalties are split between the city and the rest of the parish. Quote, the Lafayette City Council has not been allowed to make motions or debate joint ordinances without Lafayette Parish Council concurrence. The resolution approved Tuesday states, the City Council has no control over departments and component units of government that are funded almost entirely by City of Lafayette tax dollars. And Guillory's administration continues to fight the City Council's attempt to hire its own attorney to determine if the charter is being properly interpreted. Quote, the City Council is increasingly concerned that consolidation will continue to result in city tax dollars being improperly used to fund more than the city's legal share of consolidated services, the resolution declares. The committee will consist of 7 residents and registered voters of the city, 1 appointed by each of the 5 city council members, and 2 appointed by the council as a whole. Applications for the 2 committee members to be appointed by the full council are due to the council office by February 9th. Appointments will be made February 23rd. And now moving to our next headline, it reads, Marine's family receives first payment in death settlement. Lafayette man among victims in 1983 Beirut bombing. And this is written by Ken Stickney. 37 years after terrorists exploded a truck bomb in a Marine barracks in Lebanon, killing 241 U.S. military personnel, Iran has started to pay. Among the victims that day, Lex Trahan, 19, a Como High graduate and the lone child of Percy Blackie Trahan, and his wife Shirley of Lafayette. Attorney Warren Parra, who represents the Trahan family, said he was notified Sunday that the first payment, $300,000 of an almost $50 million settlement, had arrived. Settlement of the suit will be made as assets of the Iranian regime are secured. They will generally be reaped from seizure of illegal goods. In this case, the payment to the Trahans and others were made by capturing an Iranian ship that was trying to illegally evade an embargo last year. Payments will vary according to how much illegal goods are seized. Parra said Trahan's father, the sole remaining member of the family, was, quote, really moved that the initial payment of the settlement had arrived. His wife died in 2019. Lex Trahan joined the Marines in 1982 and planned to attend college when his services was complete. His intention was to work in the energy industry. But first, Trahan, a combat engineer, was assigned to duty in Beirut as part of a multinational peacekeeping effort. His room was on the third floor of a 4-story dormitory when a terrorist driving a truck loaded with 2,500 pounds of explosives broke through steel fences and sandbags at 6:20 a.m. on October 23, 1983, creating an explosion that left a crater 30 feet deep and 40 feet wide. The death toll included 220 Marines, 18 Navy sailors, 3 Army soldiers, and some 60 French peacekeepers. The attack was later identified as terrorism sponsored by Iran. The toll was the worst single-day loss for U.S. troops since Iwo Jima in World War II. The court case against Iran began in 2016 under the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act. Parra described collection of the award as, quote, a long-term effort from the U.S. Victims of the State-Sponsored Terrorism Fund established by the U.S. Treasury Department Office of Foreign Assets Control. The fund, created after 9/11, consists of penalties assessed against rogue entities such as banks, terrorists, and governments. After Trahan's death, his high school class set up a fund to put flowers on his grave annually on his birthday. The flowers continue to arrive every January 14th. Trahan is buried in Lafayette Memorial Park. There is a memorial fund in his name at the University of Louisiana Lafayette, where his mother worked. And now, we'll move on to some local crime news. We have several headlines to look at. The first reads, Grand jury charges 3 in September killing. 3 suspects have been charged by a grand jury in the September slaying of an 18-year-old. Kendall Leday, 17 of Carencro, was charged with second-degree murder. And Donique Monkel Leopold, 20 of Lafayette, and Joshua Jamal Chevalier, 23 of Lafayette, were charged with participating in the commission of the second-degree murder of Damian George after a grand jury met Wednesday. The fatal shooting happened about 11:30 p.m. September 19th at a convenience store in the 800 block of North University Avenue. George was found suffering from multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and was taken to a hospital where he later died, the Lafayette Police Department reported at the time. Leday fled the scene before officers arrived and was later arrested by agents with the U.S. Marshals Service Violent Offender Task Force, the police statement said. Our next crime headline reads, Teenager killed in St. Landry shooting. A 16-year-old boy was shot and killed early Wednesday in St. Landry Parish. The shooting happened at about 1:30 a.m. in the 200 block of Galeno Street in Opelousas. The teen, who was shot in the back, was taken to Opelousas General Hospital's North Campus, where he later died from his injuries. St. Landry Parish Sheriff's Office spokesperson, Deputy Chief Eddie Thibodeau, said in a statement, Anyone with information on the shooting and the teen's death is asked to call 337-948-8477 or visit St. Landry Crime Stoppers, all one word, .com. And our next crime headline reads, Opelousas Police Searching for Shooter. The Opelousas Police Department is seeking information after a man was shot near West Groleigh and Sapphire Streets. The shooting happened at about 6 p.m. Monday. Officers Officers responded to a shots fired call and discovered one man and at least one occupied residence were struck by gunfire. The victim was shot in the lower leg and attempted to flee in a vehicle, but crashed into a tree while being fired upon, Opelousas police spokesperson Major Mark Guidry said in a statement. The victim was treated at a hospital and was released shortly after. Opelousas police urge anyone with information related to the shooting to contact the Opelousas Police Department at 337-948-2500 or crime tips at opelousaspd.com. And another crime headline, which reads, Opelousas man accused of shooting woman. A 66-year-old Opelousas man was arrested and accused of shooting a woman inside his home, Opelousas police said. Lester Prince was arrested on account of attempted second-degree murder and booked into the St. Landry Parish Jail. Officers responded to Prince's home in the 700 block of Patsy Street about 9:40 p.m. Monday after he called the police, who found a woman suffering from serious injuries. She was taken to a hospital in critical condition, Opelousas police spokesperson Major Mark Guidry said in a statement. Prince told officers he awakened to a suspected intruder inside his home, retrieved his firearm, and shot at the person. The victim told officers Prince picked her up while she was walking in North Opelousas and returned with him to his home, where they engaged in consensual sexual acts and used illegal narcotics, the statement said. The woman told officers she was in the bathroom when Prince opened fire on her. Prince told officers he was not sure if he had or hadn't picked up the female victim, Guidry said in the statement. And now for a PSA break. Pieces of Hope is holding a virtual open mic. On Wednesday, January 27th at 7 p.m., the Festival of Words hosts Pieces of Hope virtual open mic on Zoom. For 16 years, the festival has hosted the Grand Coteau-based event featuring writers, musicians, and storytellers. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the creative community will gather online. Coming together is an act of hope. Come to share or just to listen and enjoy. The 2-hour open mic presents 20 writers and musicians, each performing for 5 minutes. Performers are from Lafayette and all over the country. Make yourself a drink, grab some cheese and crackers, and sit back to enjoy some exquisite performances that will soothe, entertain, and enlighten. To join, go to the Facebook page for Pieces of Hope Virtual Open Mic. The link to the Zoom Cafe will be available the week of the event. Or, alternatively, you can contact Martha at FOWMARTHA@gmail.com or 337-804-2482. This free community event is suitable for all ages and is sponsored by the Festival of Words Cultural Arts Collective. And now we'll return to our local headlines. Our next reads, 8th graders, seniors, to return to Lafayette classrooms full-time. Other middle school, high schoolers, to remain on hybrid schedule. 8th and 12th grade public school students will return to full-time in-person classes February 1st, the Lafayette Parish School System announced Wednesday. The school district said other middle and high school students will remain on the hybrid attendance schedule, with certain days spent in in-person classes and others spent learning at home, until further notice. Elementary school students already attend in-person classes full-time. Allison Dickerson, district spokesperson, said about 3,450 students across the 2 grades will be returning to in-person classes full-time. Dickerson said administrators chose to focus on 8th and 12th graders because both are in transitional periods in their educations. Seniors preparing to graduate and advance to college or professional work, and 8th graders are preparing to advance to high school. Although everyone benefits from face-to-face learning, these 2 groups are at crucial times when teacher interaction and assessment is needed, she said. Both groups of students need to identify and remediate learning gaps to be fully prepared to take their next steps. Quote, "We've always said and known that face-to-face instruction is best. We know that being face-to-face It gives the students and the teachers an opportunity to interact with one another, and it also gives teachers a better opportunity to identify any challenges and address any type of learning gaps that students may have. She said district administrators have been working out the logistics of different approaches to in-person learning, including this partial return for some students throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Transportation, which must adhere to prescribed capacity limits at each stage of the state's reopening plan, will be able to absorb the 8th and 12th graders' returns without significant adjustment. The bus runs were tested in November with the first attempt at a full-time return. Dickerson said the district is considering a range of data, including COVID-19 cases in schools, quarantines in schools, COVID-19 numbers in the community, and the rate of community spread when making decisions about student learning changes. Quote, "The reason we're choosing two groups versus bringing everyone back at the same time is that we want to do this in a slow, strategic, and responsible manner," she said. "We just need to make sure we do it carefully. We feel that bringing everyone in might be a little overwhelming, so we feel it's better to take a segment of the population at a time and see how that goes. Fundamentally, our job is to educate our students, but we also have a responsibility to make sure they're learning in a safe environment." The district attempted a full return to in-person learning for middle and high school students in November, but the effort was scrapped after two schools, David Thibodeau STEM Magnet Academy and Southside High School, were closed to in-person learning after a high number of students were quarantined because of exposure to people who tested positive for COVID-19. The district then shifted back to the hybrid approach post-Thanksgiving and for the beginning of 2021. As the second attempt approaches, the district is asking students, staff, and families to adhere to COVID-19 safety measures. Quote, "We are thankful for the work of our educators in keeping our students safe in schools as learning continues. We encourage everyone to continue doing their part in slowing down the spread of this virus. Please wear a mask, limit large gatherings, wash hands, and practice social distancing. These efforts will help our students and staff remain safely in school," the release said. And now, we'll take a move to state headlines. With our first reading. Two New Orleans legislators jump into congressional race to replace Richmond. And this is brought to us by Will Sintel. Two state senators wasted no time Wednesday in filing to run for the second congressional district seat formerly held by Cedric Richmond. State Senators Troy Carter and Karen Carter Peterson, both New Orleans Democrats, submitted qualifying papers moments after the 3 days of qualifying began at 8 a.m. Candidates have until 4:30 p.m. Friday to fill out the forms and pay the fees to get their names on the ballot. The 2nd Congressional District and a race for the 5th Congressional District, which opened up after U.S. Representative-elect Luke Letlow of 41 died last month of complications from COVID-19. The races are generating the most interest. Richmond, a Democrat, resigned his post to take a job as an advisor to President Joe Biden, who was sworn in Wednesday. The primary is March 20th. Early voting begins March 6th. Any runoffs will be held on April 24th. Carter and Peterson had both announced their candidacies weeks ago. The 2nd District includes most of Orleans Parish and parts of Jefferson Parish, then runs up the Mississippi River, collecting black majority precincts and predominantly minority neighborhoods of North Baton Rouge. Carter told reporters that, unlike Peterson, he has 30 years of public service. That includes time outside the state legislature as a member of the New Orleans City Council. He said Richmond's endorsement of his bid means he will have the ear of the man who has the ear of the president. Quote, "This is going to be a tremendous benefit for the people of the state of Louisiana and the people of the 2nd Congressional District," Carter said. Peterson noted that, if elected, she would be the lone female member of the state's congressional lineup. Quote, "There is no woman in the delegation," she said. "That is unfortunate." Peterson said that the pay equity gap between men and women is one of her longtime concerns. She said boosting the minimum wage to $15 per hour, one of Biden's priorities announced last week, is, quote, "a starting point." The current minimum wage is $7.25 per hour, which applies to workers in Louisiana because the state does not have its own floor on wages. Peterson, a 20-year veteran of the legislature, downplayed Richmond's endorsement of Carter. Quote, "I am not at all concerned about that," she said, calling Richmond a friend who was also a legislative colleague for 10 years. Peterson cited a wide range of endorsements of her own, including from fellow Democrat Stacey Abrams, who lost her bid for governor of Georgia in 2018 after becoming the first black woman in the nation to be nominated for governor by a major political party. Abrams then organized a successful get out and vote effort for November's presidential election. Peterson said that she has been on the front lines of high-profile issues during her time in the legislature, including statewide expansions of Medicaid and support for colleges and universities when state aid was cut under former Governor Bobby Jindal. Quote, "I am willing when there are tough issues to be decided," Peterson said. Carter, a longtime advocate of boosting the minimum wage, said his priorities in Congress would be enactment of a, quote, living wage, access to the coronavirus vaccine, economic development, and student loan forgiveness. Democrat Gary Chambers Jr. of Baton Rouge also filed for the 2nd Congressional District slot. Chambers downplayed the fact that most of the district's voters live in the New Orleans area. Quote, "This is the people's seat," he said. "People want someone who is going to solve and address the issues." Chambers, who previously lost a bid for the state Senate, is a publisher of the Rogue Collective and has long been outspoken on controversial issues. He said he has raised about $250,000 from 6,000 individual donors. Also filing Wednesday was Libertarian Mindy McConnell of New Orleans and Democrat Jeanette Porter of New Orleans. The other key race is the heavily Republican 5th Congressional District that encompasses 24 parishes and extends from Bastrop in the far northeast of Louisiana through Alexandria to Opelousas, then east past St. Francisville through much of the Florida parishes to Bogalusa. Letlow's widow, Julia Letlow, is expected to file for the post Thursday. 4 other Republicans entered the contest Wednesday: Chad Connerly of Kentwood, Alan Guillory of Lawtell, Horace Melton III of Shreveport, and Sasha Smith of Opelousas, as well as Democrat Sandra Candy Christopher of Alexandria. Shelley McFarland filed for the District 4 seat on the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education that was vacated Tuesday by Tony Davis, who resigned to take a job in Indiana. McFarland lives in Jonesboro and is the wife of State Representative Jack McFarland, a Republican also of Jonesboro. Michael Mellerin, a Shreveport attorney, also qualified for the race. Mellerin practices in a law firm with State Representative Alan Seabaugh. McFarland and Mellerin are both Republicans. The 11-member board sets policies for about 700,000 public school students. Qualifying for the Jefferson Parish State House District 82 seat, left vacant by Charles Henry earlier this month, is between January 25th and January 27th. Now, we'll move to some briefs from the staff. The first begins with Hancock Whitney posts $103 million profit. Hancock Whitney reported on Wednesday that net profit for the last 4 months of 2020 was 12% higher year on year, with a tax break on earlier losses and cost-cutting accounting for a substantial portion of the increase. The Gulfport, Mississippi-based bank, which has a large presence in Louisiana, said fourth quarter profit was $103.6 million, up from $92.1 million in the same period a year earlier. President and CEO John Hairston said the bank's activity for much of the past year was focused on dealing with the fallout from the coronavirus pandemic, particularly managing the Small Business Administration-directed Paycheck Protection Program, which allows for forgivable loans for businesses that are distributed via banks for a fee. Quote, "The fourth quarter was a strong finish to a very challenging year," Hairston said. The bank said its loan portfolio in the fourth quarter declined by $450 million to $21.8 billion, though most of the decline was due to the forgiven federal loans. It said its core business was growing modestly, despite economic hardships. Quote, "Modest growth in our markets, mainly in commercial, was offset by net declines to other business lines, such as energy," the bank said. While mortgage originations remained strong given today's low rate environment, activity has slowed somewhat, with most loans being sold in the secondary market. The bank said it expects the Paycheck Protection Program will dominate loan activity this year. Quote, management expects loans to decline once again in the first quarter of 2021, as significantly more PPP loans are given and opportunities for new organic growth remain low in light of the slow economic environment, the bank said. The company will participate in the extended CARES Act Paycheck Protection Program and expects new loan growth to partially offset the declines. The bank also said it cut quarterly expenses by $3 million to $193 million, largely by closing 20 locations and reducing staff by 210. The bank had nearly 3,900 employees at the end of 2019 and around 230 locations, about half of which were in Louisiana. And then our next headline from the staff here is New Orleans statewide summits being held. Economic Outlook summits looking at the New Orleans area and statewide economies for 2021 are planned for 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Thursday and Friday, respectively. The virtual summits, hosted online by The Advocate and the Times-Picayune, follow previous ones exploring the Acadiana and Baton Rouge area economies. Thursday's New Orleans summit will be live-streamed on NOLA.com's YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. A rebroadcast will follow at 8 p.m. Will refollow at 8 p.m. Sponsors include Entergy, Tulane University, LCMC Health, and Hancock Whitney. The statewide summit on Friday will be live-streamed on theadvocate.com, NOLA.com, YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope. A rebroadcast will follow at 8 p.m. Sponsors are Entergy and LCMC Health. We're going to take a short break from the headlines to look at our Today in History, followed by our horoscopes. Our Today in History is usual, brought to us by the Associated Press. Today is Thursday, January 21st, the 21st day of 2021. There are 344 days left in the year. Today's highlight in history is, on January 21st, 2020, the U.S. reported its first known case of the new virus circulating in China, saying a Washington state resident who had returned the previous week from the outbreak's epicenter was hospitalized near Seattle. U.S. officials stressed that they believed the overall risk of the virus to the American public remained low. On this date, in 1793, during the French Revolution, King Louis XVI, condemned for treason, was executed on the guillotine. In 1915, the first Kiwanis Club, dedicated to community service, was founded in Detroit. In 1924, Russian revolutionary Vladimir Lenin died at age 53. In 1954, the first atomic submarine, the USS Nautilus, was launched at Groton, Connecticut. However, the Nautilus did not make its first nuclear-powered run until nearly a year later. In 1977, on his first full day in office, President Jimmy Carter pardoned all Vietnam War draft evaders. In 1977, Speaker Newt Gingrich was reprimanded and fined as the House voted for the first time in history to discipline its leader for ethical misconduct. In 2003, the Census Bureau announced that Hispanics had surpassed blacks as America's largest minority. In 2007, Lovie Smith became the first black head coach to make it to the Super Bowl when his Chicago Bears won the NFC Championship, beating the New Orleans Saints 39-14. Tony Dungy became the second when his Indianapolis Colts took the AFC title over the New England Patriots 38-34. In 2010, a bitterly divided U.S. Supreme Court in Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission vastly increased the power of big business and labor unions to influence government decisions by freeing them to spend their millions directly to sway election for president and Congress. In 2019, first-term Senator and former California Attorney General Kamala Harris entered the Democratic presidential race. Harris would withdraw from the race in December. She would be chosen the following August as the party's vice presidential nominee. 10 years ago, President Barack Obama visited Schenectady, New York, the birthplace of General Electric Company, to declare that his job was putting our economy into overdrive. 5 years ago, the Obama administration tightened restrictions on European and other travelers who had visited Iran, Iraq, Syria, or Sudan in the previous 5 years. 1 year ago, a rancorous dispute over rules marked the first full day of President Donald Trump's Senate impeachment trial. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell added an extra day for opening arguments and agreed that evidence from the House impeachment proceedings would be included in the record. And now, we'll move on to today's famous birthdays. World Golf Hall of Famer Jack Nicklaus has turned 81 today. Opera singer and conductor Placido Domingo is 80 years old. Actor Jill Eckenberry is 74. Singer-songwriter Billy Ocean has turned 71. Former U.S. Ambassador to China Gary Locke is also 71 today. Former U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder has turned 70. Actor-director Robbie Benson is 65. Actor Gina Davis is also 65 today. Senator Kevin Cramer, a Republican of North Dakota, has turned 60. Actor Charlotte Ross has turned 53. Actor John Ducey is 52 today. Rock singer-songwriter Cat Power has turned 49. Rock DJ Chris Kilmore of Incubus is 48 today. Singer Emma Bunton of the Spice Girls has turned 45. Actor Jerry Traynor is 44 today. Country singer Phil Stacey has turned 43. And finally, R&B singer Nakio is 42 today. With that, we'll take a look at our horoscopes for today. We'll begin with Aquarius, which is birth dates of January 20th to February 19th. Rethink your strategy and consider your motives. A change someone makes will give you a reason to reconsider matters. Don't let uncertainty take charge. For Pisces, which is February 20th to March 20th birth dates. Offer help for the right reasons. Ulterior motives will lead to trouble. Be open about your expectations. Rewards for your honesty will come your way. A new image will give you confidence. For Aries, which is birth dates of March 21st to April 19th. Reach out to those you have a good rapport with, and you'll get the help you need. Take advantage of last-minute change by having a backup plan in place. Use your intelligence. For Taurus, which is birth dates of April 20th to May 20th. Separate work and personal issues to avoid giving someone the upper hand. Focus more on individual gains, growth, and living a healthy lifestyle. Love and romance will ease stress and improve your day. For our Geminis, which is birth dates of May 20th to June 20th. Stick to the truth. You don't have to sugarcoat or exaggerate to get what you want. Intelligence will be all you need to persuade others to see things your way. Be careful with your money. To Cancers, which is birth dates of June 21st to July 22nd. Avoid joint ventures, investments, and risky projects. Don't let anyone talk you into something that you don't like. Concentrate on working hard and doing your best. Romance is in the stars. For Leo, which is birth dates of July 23rd to August 22nd. Take one step at a time. Consider every angle before you commit to anything. Uncertainty will mount as the day unfolds, and you'll be glad you opted to take your time. For Virgo, which is August 23rd to September 22nd birth dates. Express your feelings, and it'll help you make better decisions. Reach out to a loved one and make an effort to spend more time with him or her. Romance is favored. For Libra, which is September 23rd to October 23rd birth dates. Concentrate on letting go of the past and moving forward with greater optimism and less stress. Don't let your emotions interfere with the things that you need to do. Do what's best for you. For Scorpio, which is October 24th to November 22nd birthdays. Question everyone and everything. You want to be positive that you're making the right decision before you proceed. Life-changing opportunities will require dedication and discipline. To Sagittarius, which is birthdates of November 23rd to December 21st. Turn something you enjoy doing into a lucrative endeavor. Exploit the services and skills you have to offer instead of letting others take advantage of you and your attributes. And our final horoscope for the day are Capricorns, which is birthdates of December 22nd to January 19th. Let your intuition lead the way. Focus on what you know and do best. Make your living space more conducive to achieving your goals. And now we will continue back to some of our state headlines. Our next reads, Harris's inauguration outfit designed by Baton Rouge native Rogers. And this is brought to us by Paul Cobbler. Baton Rouge native Christopher John Rogers designed part of Kamala Harris's outfit for Wednesday's inauguration. The vice president wore a purple suit and coat designed by Rogers and wore shoes made by South Carolina native Sergio Hudson as she took the oath of office on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, according to the Associated Press. The first Black and South Asian woman to be elected vice president, Harris has made it a point to wear clothes made by Black designers during events leading up to Inauguration Day. Rogers, who now lives in New York City, thanked Harris on Instagram for wearing his design. Quote, "We are so honored and humbled to have played a small part in this historic moment," Rogers wrote. The purple hue is a nod to the women's suffrage movement, a color that was often worn by women fighting to gain the right to vote in the early 20th century. Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress, also often wore purple on the campaign trail. And Harris has noted that Chisholm, quote, created a path for her. Rogers is a graduate of Baton Rouge Magnet High School and attended the Savannah College of Art and Design, launching his brand in 2016. In 2020, Rogers won the Council of Fashion Designers of America's prestigious American Emerging Designer of the Year award. April Hammock, a talented visual arts teacher at Baton Rouge Magnet who taught Rogers when he was a senior there, said she knew Rogers would be incredibly successful when he was in her class roughly 10 years ago. Quote, "It was like I was able to see his future as a teacher, and that was really exciting," said Hammock, 46. "He is a brilliant young man. He was very kind and very intelligent and very talented. So I knew that Chris was a very special student, and I'm so pleased to have been part of his legacy already." Hammock called Harris's outfit exquisite and lauded her former students' work. Quote, "I can't imagine being in his shoes and being able to do that. And he absolutely deserves that," Hammock said. "Wow, what a wonderful thing to do, and what a remarkable thing of him to be a part of and be the creator of that dress." Rogers has designed for other notable figures before, including First Lady Michelle Obama, actor Tracy Ellis Ross, and singers Lizzo and Rihanna. And now on to our next headline. It reads, Panel, Teen Vaping Still Dangerous Despite Recent Decline. And this is brought to us by Charles Lusher. Despite a recent decline nationally, educators locally continue to worry about vaping among teenagers and the possibility that without adult vigilance, youth will develop lifelong health-threatening addictions. Vaping was a big topic at this year's annual prevention summit held by iCare, which provides substance abuse and crisis counseling at Baton Rouge Public Schools. The conference, held virtually due to the coronavirus pandemic, featured 2 sessions on the dangers of vaping. The speakers were Dr. Lauren Tillery, a family medicine resident at Baton Rouge General Medical Center, and Travis Costanza, a certified tobacco training specialist with Ochsner Health, based out of Denham Springs. Their talks, which were given Tuesday, covered similar ground, though Costanza, a former teacher, focused more on what educators can do to help. Tillery discussed how modern e-cigarettes were launched in China in 2003 and by 2006 had made it to the United States. She said e-cigarettes were initially viewed in the medical world as much safer than conventional cigarettes. That view has begun to change as more medical research is done, especially when it comes to teenagers. For instance, e-cigarettes were thought to expose users to less nicotine than conventional cigarettes, but in many cases, it's the reverse. Tillery noted that vapes can have more nicotine overall, depending on the vaping liquid, how deeply users puff, and how the atomizers work on the device. Quote, although it's marketed as a smoking cessation tool, vaping can actually cause higher exposures to nicotine than a conventional cigarette, Tillery said. Costanza, who usually gives presentations to middle and high schoolers, said students often argue to him that the ingredients in vape liquids, such as propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin, are safe because they are, quote, food grade. But that's assuming you're eating them, Costanza noted. Quote, you wouldn't grind up a hamburger and snort it up your nose because that's not the way it's intended to be eaten, Costanza said. With more than 15,000 flavors on the market, users are often in the dark about what's in vape liquids. Both Tillery and Costanza noted that lab analysis have found a variety of potentially toxic chemicals, including formaldehyde and benzene, as well as heavy metals such as nickel and tin. Quote, there's a lot of unknown because none of these are regulated by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and so, of course, that's where we have problems, Costanza said. Both presenters noted that vaping among youth in the United States has increased dramatically in recent years, with Louisiana outpacing the nation. Neither presenters, however, discussed the possibility that that may be changing. For instance, federal laws have changed. In December 2019, the minimal age to purchase any type of tobacco product increased from 18 to 21. Also during this time, the federal government started cracking down on flavored e-cigarettes, as well as launching a nationwide public education campaign, prompting many to go off the market. These factors are credited with contributing to sharp declines in e-cigarette usage in the most recent National Youth Tobacco Survey, which was released last month. About 23.6% of high schoolers and 6.7% of middle schoolers nationwide reported using an e-cigarette in the previous 30 days, both down substantially from 2019. The middle school usage was about half of what it was a year before. The survey, though, was affected by the coronavirus, with fewer students completing it. Jerry Lavitt, a clinic manager with Ochsner's smoking cessation program and Costanza's boss, said the pandemic also may have played a part in lowering usage by forcing children to stay home for months and closing stores. Quote, we want to make sure this year is not an anomaly with the pandemic, Labatt said. The pandemic has also made presentations like the one at this year's Eye Care Summit a rarity. Costanza said he gave more than 100 presentations at schools in the 2 months before the pandemic forced schools to close in March. Since then, he's given just 3, even though he's offered to do them virtually. Quote, school systems are so overwhelmed with virtual learning, he said. Costanza worries that vaping among teenagers, if it's down at all, will rebound once the pandemic passes, noting how the state has long had more smokers of all types than the rest of the country. Educators, Costanza said, can do a lot to head off problems, pointing out that they see kids often more minutes each day than parents do. He said kids who have started vaping may show signs of nicotine withdrawal, or sometimes excessive nicotine in their systems. These signs include sweating, suspicious behavior like sneaking puffs under a hoodie, agitation, chronic coughs, and a difficulty concentrating on mundane tasks. One of the most common tells that educators should look out for are headaches, he said. Quote, if a child is not used to having nicotine, is vaping a 3% or 5% nicotine jewel pod, and they're doing it consistently, they may get too much nicotine, Costanza said. Quote, it causes them to feel carsick and have a headache. And now to our next headline. New Orleans rapper Lil Wayne granted last-minute pardon. Entertainer faced jail time on gun charges. And this is brought to us by Keith Spera. The shrewdest political maneuver of the 2020 election cycle may have been made by Lil Wayne. On October 29th, the New Orleans-born rapper tweeted a picture of himself with President Donald Trump that was widely seen as an endorsement. The president's re-election bid was unsuccessful, but the tweet apparently paid big dividends for Lil Wayne anyway. Late Tuesday night, he received one of several dozen presidential pardons issued by Trump in the final hours of his presidency. Trump granted pardons to 73 people and commuted the sentences of 70 others, including rapper Kodak Black. Lil Wayne, 38, whose real name is Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., was scheduled to be sentenced January 28th after pleading guilty to a federal charge of being a convicted felon in possession of a firearm. He faced up to 10 years behind bars. But early Wednesday, hours before Trump's term was set to end with the inauguration of Joe Biden, the White House press secretary released a list of everyone who had received a pardon or commutation, along with a description of each case. The rationale behind Wayne's pardon was described in the document as followed. Quote, President Trump granted a full pardon to Dwayne Michael Carter Jr., also known as Lil Wayne. Mr. Carter pled guilty to possession of a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon, owing to a conviction over 10 years ago. Brett Barish of Sovereign Brands, who supports a pardon for Mr. Carter, describes him as trustworthy, kind-hearted, and generous. Mr. Carter has exhibited this generosity through commitment to a variety of charities, including donations to research hospitals and a host of food banks. Deion Sanders, who also wrote in support of this pardon, calls Mr. Wayne a provider for his family, a friend to many, a man of faith, a natural caregiver to the less fortunate, a waymaker, and a game changer. On December 23, 2019, Miami police, acting on an anonymous tip, searched the private plane in which the rapper landed at Florida's Miami Opa-locka Executive Airport. They reportedly found a gold-plated 45 caliber Glock handgun and ammunition, as well as small amounts of cocaine, ecstasy, marijuana, heroin, painkillers, and prescription-strength cough syrup, and more than $25,000 in cash. Carter wasn't charged with drug possession. The gun, he said, was a Father's Day gift. It was also a parole violation. In 2009, he reached a plea agreement with prosecutors in New York and pled guilty to an attempted weapons possession. The felony charge stemmed from a July 22, 2007 incident in which police in Manhattan pulled over his tour bus and said they observed him tossing aside a Louis Vuitton bag containing a .40 caliber handgun. Carter was then at the height of his career. His 2008 album, The Carter 3, debuted at #1 on the Billboard album chart and went on to become the best-selling album of the year. It won a Grammy Award for Best Rap Album of 2008. After pleading guilty, he reported to jail in early 2010 and served 8 months at New York's Rikers Island before being released in November of 2010. As a convicted felon, Carter is barred from bearing arms. After police found the golden gun on the plane with Carter in December 2019, he found himself facing another felony charge. In a photo included in Carter's October 29 tweet, he and Trump stand in front of a row of American flags, both smiling and flashing a thumbs up. The color schemes of their respective attire match. Trump wore a dark suit with a red tie, while Carter wore a dark sweater with red trim. In the tweet, Carter said he had met with Trump and then went on to praise his policies. Quote, besides what he's done so far with criminal reform, the Platinum Plan is going to give the community real ownership, said the tweet. He listened to what we had to say today and assured he will and can get it done. According to the New York Times, Howard Serbnik, Carter's attorney, said last year after Carter was charged in the Golden Gun caper that he was, quote, not aware of any attempts by the White House to intervene on Carter's behalf in this case. Various media reports have said that Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and advisor, was among those who lobbied the president to include Carter in the flurry of pardons. And now, we're going to take a look into the world of sports. Our first sports headline reads, UL women to play Friday at Arkansas State. Cajuns face Sunbelt leader in Road Series after 3-week-long layoff. And this is brought to us by Kevin Foote. It just seems like UL women's coach Gary Broadhead and his Raging Cajun basketball team can't catch a break. The season began with a 2-week team quarantine. Then came multiple cancellations, resulting in 3 of the 5 pre-conference games being challenging road trips to LSU, Rice, and Louisiana Tech. And after an encouraging road win at Texas Tech on January 2nd, the Cajuns' last 2 Sun Belt weekends have been canceled, producing a 51-day stretch with no home games. Now, if COVID-19 allows the Cajuns to return to the court Friday for the first time in 3 weeks, waiting for them are none other than the hottest team in the Sun Belt, Arkansas State. Quote, "It's tough," said Broadhead, whose Cajuns will play at 6 p.m. Friday in Jonesboro, and again at 4 p.m. Saturday, and then go to Little Rock at 5:30 p.m. Monday. Quote, "I think it's going to be a lot tougher than I thought. I'm real positive because I see them in practice and it looks good, but I don't know how it's going to look in a game. I apologize ahead of time if it doesn't look good." While UL enters the weekend 2-5 overall and 1-1 in league play, hoping it still remembers how to ride the bike, the Red Wolves have won 9 in a row with a 9-1 overall and 4-0 league record. Quote, "Arkansas State is a tough place to play," Broadhead said. "But we've just got to go out and see what we have. Hopefully, we can kind of do some things that disrupt what they do." Arkansas State, which hasn't lost since an 85-68 setback to Arkansas Pine Bluff in the season opener, swept Texas State at home and ULM in Monroe last weekend. The Red Wolves are led by a trio of double-figure scorers in Jairi Washington, who is averaging 12.4 points and 5.5 rebounds, Jada Stinson, averaging 11.9 points and 3.7 rebounds, and Peyton Martin, averaging 10.3 points and 5.5 rebounds. Quote, "They're guard-heavy," Broadhead said. "Washington is playing really well. That lane line drive has been good, and then defensively they're mixing it up between their zone, their 1-3-1, the 2-3, and then their man-to-man. They also have a kid shooting at 50% from the field. Their hybrids are like ours. I like the matchup. It's pretty much the same. They're scoring a lot more than us, but I have confidence in our defense that we can do some things to disrupt it a little bit." While waiting to play again, Broadhead said he's done everything from look back at practice plans from a decade ago to full 40-minute scrimmages to simulate game time conditions as much as possible. Quote, "The longer we stay out, the tougher it's going to be," Broadhead said. "How do you keep them focused? It's a tough one." And that is our only sports headline of the day, as well as our final headline. We will now take a look at funerals around Acadiana before coming to a close today. The funerals today in the Acadiana area include Sammy Abraham, with services being held at Dellum Funeral Home on Bertrand at 6:30 p.m. James Gaspar, with services at David Funeral Home of New Iberia, located at 1101 Trotter Street in New Iberia at 11 a.m. Next is Nam La, with services being held at Fountain Memorial Funeral Home and Cemetery, located at 1010 Pandora Street at 11 a.m. Next we have John Ogle, with services held at Woodlawn Chapel, located at 8001 Woodlawn Road in Maurice at 2 p.m. And our final funeral in the area is Russell Romero Sr., with services to be held at David's Funeral Home of Lafayette at 2 p.m. This has been Local News Live for January 21st, 2021. I've been your reader, Daniel Rayburn. Join us at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday on AOC 1, Cypress Street Radio, or the AOC Community Media channel on YouTube. You can read these stories and more at theadvocate.com and find out how to volunteer and more at aocinc.org. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great day, Acadiana.